Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina, and my guest today, a former behavioral scientist with Boeing, Sharon Rolph. Welcome. You are with Effortless Vitality, and you're going to tell us what that means. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I hope the sound comes across fine. So
Yeah, we'll give it a try. Technology sometimes goes against us, but we're going to try to work with it today. So tell me, first of all, what it was like working at Boeing and being a behavioral scientist.
well, I didn't get to use my degree directly, other than I mainly use it to empower people. I felt like my job at Boeing, while I did work on the production floor to get in the door, your foot in the door, but later I was able to transfer into a facilitator empowerment type position, and we were trying to take a problem solving down to the lowest level. And some of it was happening naturally, but to deliberately and what do you call it, intentionally have people see themselves as problem solvers, they kind of ran against the union uh, culture.
Okay.
Yeah, because the union likes to blame somebody um or to yeah, blame somebody is pretty much and to be purposely, empowered was, oh well, maybe tomorrow.
Okay. Was that frustrating for you?
A little bit, but I just kind of let it, swing past me, because you have to filter some of that culture out. And I'm still an encourager and an empowerer. So I kept at it because I wanted to bring out the best in people.
So at what point did you realize you were able to filter out that and you were doing more good than filtering, if that makes sense?
Well, what was really kind of interesting is that by the time I retired there were people coming in the door from college, and they were used to working on teams and, putting arm in arm with each other and solving things together. So that was changing the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a lot of experience with um, the results, because oftentimes problem solving take a little while to happen. But I was so encouraged that the young people hiring on had the experience of being empowered and solving things together.
So when you left Boeing and you had this time on your hands, tell me what that was like and what made you decide to move forward with what you're doing now.
Well, the week before I retired, I started coaching classes. I had worked on a convention and my director had said, well, in fact, I led it one year, and he said, when you get through with a big project, have something else to go to. Now, I didn't ask him how he learned that lesson. I wish I did, but I kind of assumed he had been there, done that,
Yeah, yeah.
So I retired in April, but January I had a email come in my basket that was saying that Boeing was partnering with the community college in this coaching classes. And so I applied for it. I thought, oh yeah, that would help be a natural progression of what I'm doing as a facilitator. And I tried all kinds of ways to get Boeing to pay me for it, or pay the bill, And they said, no, I don't think we'll be able to reap the reward of you going to class and then retiring. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So, I paid the bill myself, but the first thing they taught us, Trina, was to write our essence statement. And it took us a couple of days to do a number of exercises. And it the last thing we did was stand in a circle and read to each other what our essence statement was. And as it came to be my turn in the circle, I said, what? Nobody's ever asked me to define my soul before. It was such a profound moment. And when I read it, and I had noticed others were kind of choking up as they were reading it. And I kind of did too, you know, you take a big gulp and here's what I read to them. I am precious jewel of wisdom. I am colorful collaborator, motivator, and learner. I am tranquil, authentic, and pure inspirer. I light fires.
Mm.
Kind of knowing yourself on the inside, and nobody teaches us that. And it's time to bring that to the world. I so want to, I see all this retirement time as untapped potential. What are we doing with this time on our hands? Some people do see it as a kind of a weight on their shoulder. You know, I did start kind of bouncing off the wall a little bit a couple months later. And I thought, how do I know if I'm productive?
Yeah.
That mattered to me. And so I had made a wall hanging and I put it on the back of my wall here where I record. And one day, 3 different times I read it, and I gradually realized that when I lived from my essence, what's inside every day felt right. I was
Mhm.
doing what mattered to me.
There's something, definitely there's a huge difference between being busy and being productive. And I think when you see that you're productive, it's so rewarding that you can only want to do more.
Yeah, yeah.
So what were you when you came to this realization, you've got this on paper, you're finally making you've made those connections with, what you feel inside. How did you bring them out? How did you start sharing those and how did you become more productive?
Well, in fact, doing my podcasting, I did start, I did 53 podcasts. About that same time, Trina, I had also been given, took a profile. You know, I kind of like profiles because they help me understand myself, but you know, how we're different. But this one came back and said I was rated really high as an influencer. Who me? I think you've got the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I chewed on that a little bit, you know, put it on the back burner, like, oh well. And and gradually I realized, how about if I took some baby steps to act as if that was true?
Mhm.
And that gave me the courage, you know, a little bit of courage to think that maybe I had some wisdom to share. And oh, in fact, I got this call from New York City that they found my something was fascinating and that I was a good talker or something like that. And I think they were the good talkers actually. But anyway, um, I think I just did one session with them and then went from there into inviting guests in and talking about uh, maximize retirement. And maximize retirement was, it's not the money so much. There's all this other stuff that goes away, disappears when you retire. You don't have a sense of achievement anymore. You don't have a team to work with. You don't have, you know, ways to use your ingenuity, you know, and
Mhm.
colleagues. That's all gone. And how are you going to replace that and do something new? And we're not taught that. Little by little, that's coming along. But to me, that's really where my behavioral science uh, plays in. So it's now kind of referred to as holistic retirement planning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, do you have clients then that hire you to help them work through something, or do you just share your information on your podcast platform?
Well, a little bit of both. The people I've helped with aren't that many, but I really am dedicated to helping more people a desire to know who they are at their best. I did start a meetup group, and the idea was to find clients. And one of the ladies that joined our group had been in the CEO boardroom since she was in her 20s. So and she ran her own companies later, and yet she was being forced out of her company because of her age. And I think her daughter might have been taking over to some degree, but she hated retirement. And this is the opportunity to live from our heart, and nobody tells us that, and to, I think it's a time to help make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And nobody, well, okay, so AARP does have a reimagined retirement where they help you match where's some places to plug in, part-time jobs or volunteering or whatever. But just last month, I actually wrote a course on how to make a marvelous transition into volunteering.
Ah.
And one of my guests had been a 6-time AARP Washington State president. And he had a nice plan laid out, 9 tips for being successful in retirement, in volunteering. And so I built off of that and added some words of wisdom once in a while that, how when you're volunteering and life is going good for you, because volunteering does make you feel good. And somehow we forgot that point. And yet that's one of the first lessons my mom taught me. She said, I think I was about 14 at the time. And she said, when you do something for somebody else, it kind of blesses them, but it blesses you too.
Yeah.
And so I am promoting my volunteer courses. It feels good.
What would be a couple of tips you would give someone that is, trying to volunteer more?
Well, in fact, my guest did volunteer, I think, 4 different places all the time. And he started out by, his first tip was try something. Another guest said, do what you did in your job for charity. So if you were accountant, find a nonprofit or foundation that needs some book work done, the accounting. If you were a pilot, find somebody that needs people or things delivered. And that's an easy transition. But if you're like a truck driver, it may not be so easy to find somebody that needs stuff delivered. And yet I work around the corner here once a week at the food bank. There is such an army of people putting on, getting food out to people. They serve between 600 and 800 people a week. And to be a part of that army feels pretty good, because you don't see very many people grumbling, when you're volunteering.
Right.
But that is a very significant point, because my guest has said that if they don't train you, move on, because otherwise you're floundering there with hoping you're doing the right thing, and they're not respecting you if they're not also training you first.
Yeah.
But one of his last tips was where he told a story of he would go into assisted living places and check to make sure that people were getting their needs met. And he found this lady that wasn't eating in the dining room. And the reason she wasn't was because she didn't have any teeth.
Oh.
Nobody had helped her get dentures. And so she was eating in a room alone. So that's loneliness and isolation. She wasn't getting out and mingling with her neighbors and other people. And it was like he totally changed her life when she was able to get dentures and then eat in the regular dining room. And he felt like he had made such a difference in her life. And what a great feeling that is.
Yeah. So I saw that yesterday you had a workshop. It was called the hot seat about belonging.
Yes, yes.
So what was that about? Tell me.
Well, I actually have I've been going 9 months now where the community is called Loneliness to Resilience. Um, how did you become lonely? How'd you get there? You know, what was the circumstances so you can be aware of it, that if that happens again, you need to change things. But um I figured that loneliness to resilience is getting into a healthy mindset, and that you're able to pick yourself back up and make some new choices. And I thought, well, beyond that, I think the next step would be to resilience to belonging. And actually, yesterday we talked a little bit more about another step beyond that, which is community. There's starting to be quite some interesting discussions happening online around community, and that people want more of a tribe. You don't want money isn't satisfying like it used to do when I was in my job, you know,
Yeah.
but you accomplish more, like the new people coming into bowling and working on a team. That team becomes your tribe, and you're covering each other's back. You're rooting for each other. You're helping people from making a mistake, maybe, or going the wrong direction. But
Yeah.
you're looking after each other. And so we were talking yesterday about community, and I had all kinds of technical problems, and
Oh
and so
no.
I didn't have my slides to use it with my discussion, but I had to wing it somewhat. But we need to get back into being together. And
Mhm.
in fact, I started that membership community with in mind that I had read our Surgeon General's book together, and yet it's about loneliness. And he came to the United States when he was like 2 or 3 years old from India, and all the transitions he had to go through as he became a doctor. I believe his dad was a doctor also, but he actually called feeling invisible a type of loneliness.
Hmm.
I was shocked because I had felt invisible my whole career.
Really?
Way down deep in my gut, I felt invisible.
Oh goodness.
And how many people feel invisible? You know,
Yeah.
young people do, especially when nobody listens to you and, you know,
Right.
interested in you. Um,
Hmm.
let's see. So, and people in retirement, because they don't have that job and that productivity anymore, uh, and their friends are dying or moving away, or their kids are moving away, and life just changes a lot. And that isolation that we went through the pandemic, we need to recover from that.
Yeah.
The world needs healing, and
Now,
I'm stepping up for that.
and that's fantastic. And I know that you're reaching out to an age demographic that you can really relate to. But do you notice this happening also with the younger age groups too?
Well, I'm not around younger people very much, but I have been on some podcasts, and I can tell by their comments afterwards that they really got a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And I, I, in fact, there's a little girl down the street. She's only maybe 18 months. Well, she's walking, so I don't know how old she, but she likes me. I'm so tickled she likes me.
Oh,
But and that's too young maybe, but the whole idea that loneliness is a individual experience. Resilience is often, in fact, I had moved to from Seattle area to Tampa, Florida with my job, and at my goodbye party, my best friend said she didn't know anybody that was as resilient as me. Really? Really? So to me, both of those are kind of inside circumstances, where when you get to belonging, now you're reaching out with a group of people. You're either celebrating with them or you're going through tough times together, but you're in it together. And then community, I don't know that businesses are seeing themselves as the community. That would probably talk about the whole company, not just a team that you're working on. But there is such a difference with the creativity and productivity and people staying at their jobs when they have belonging and community. And AI cannot replace that.
No, for sure. What do you do aside of this project? What do you do to stay involved, stay belonging with a community? How do you find your community personally?
Well, personally, I go to church most every week, and I'm not sure it's growing me that much, but I've started being aware that I am not as involved as I could be.
Mm-hmm.
I did do a talk for them last November. Our seniors ministry was just getting launched, actually, so I felt pretty good about being the first speaker. But the familiar faces there, and we have a little brunch in between the services, and so I usually chat with people there. But I'm trying to be more deliberate about talking to people. Like a week ago, there's this couple that I often see walking around town. They're just such a vibrant couple, and I'm pretty sure they're in their 80s, and they had both been professionals. So I saw them sitting. Oh, they had announced that it was their anniversary. So I decided to chat with them at the table, and here they've been all over the world.
Oh,
The only country they haven't been to is Antarctica, and the wife doesn't like the cold. So I was telling her, we were comparing notes a little bit on some trips that I've taken too. So as I parted, she says, now I'm going to be watching for you to, when you're going to be a speaker on cruise ships.
there you go. That's a great idea. So are you going to do it?
Well, just last Saturday, I had heard about a speaking class on a cruise ship. And as I woke up, I said, okay, Sharon, because I'm trying to get myself to have more joy every day. Make that a priority. It's tough to do, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to. And so what would make me bring me joy today? And I decided going on that cruise would bring me joy.
Oh, how exciting.
So I guess there's about 50 of us that will be going from Fort Lauderdale to Jamaica in September. And so that's my next growth, to do,
Yeah.
is to actually get booked on some cruise ships. Yeah.
Good. What can everyone else be doing to make sure that we're including people who have retired and are in their next chapter of life, but they're not like you're pointing out, people don't necessarily want to sit down and just do nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong, everybody likes to relax and recharge, but have some way to expend that energy. How can we help?
Well, Trina, I haven't had anybody ask that before, and I'm so glad you did.
Yay!
Because I try to bring that in. There are people all around you that are living alone. And maybe it's because they don't have the means to either walk or get out of the house. Maybe they're don't have a driver's license anymore or car. There are all kinds of people that need others to include them, myself included. I'm starting to, like, I took something to, I'm in a Take Off Pounds Sensibly TOPS meeting that I go to every week. And my old roommate is the one that got me going there. And so I took her a couple of free things that I thought she might enjoy reading. and something from Costco is way too many, so I'm going to share with her my excess. So, but I, in fact, this friend that told me she found me resilient, she had she had gotten a pretty big, hefty basket, and she put it on this one neighbor's doorstep. And she said, anytime you need something, bring the basket back with a note of what you need, and I'll fill it for you. So that was one way of helping someone, not necessarily to be social, but maybe their funds are a little low because of some repair that needed to be done, or doctor's appointment or something. So the helping each other out it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And we have gotten so well. I have to admit, I've been pretty independent all my life, and yet I also love interdependence, where we collaborate and solve things together. But I forget it every now and then. In fact, even this morning, I thought, oh, I should be knocking on the doors for clients, and I'm not doing that at this moment. So and yet I feel like part of the other thing too, Trina, is I felt like the culture needs to change. The people know and are hungry for something else.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's starting to happen. So to remind people that I'd love to help you feel like you're giving your best is right down my alley. And I like, well, I'm kind of weird in that I like to read or play videos of people who have died and came back, near-death experiences.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like how they describe heaven is kind of what it feels like to live from your soul. How cool that you're doing your unique contribution. That's why you're still living. That's why you're still here. Why you were here in the first place is to contribute from your heart. And I can help people do that.
I am glad that you're stepping up to do that, because I think people do need help doing that. I think all ages, we get lost in what we think we should be doing or what society feels like is best for us. And we forget to look at what we truly enjoy doing and how that can be a benefit to ourselves and other people too. So I'm glad you're doing that. I hope you'll come back after your cruise and tell me how it went.
Okay, I'm actually hoping that I can speak to people on the cruise. In
I
fact,
hope so.
I mentioned yesterday that from this belonging and community perspective, that being a facilitator of discussion around collective potential,
Mm-hmm.
that phrase just excites me, because that's the ultimate collaboration, is that we're problem solving together, but we're not looking at how do we get here. We're looking at where do we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there's lots of people that have gifts that they've never told anybody they had a gift. It reminds me of a story. Miller, I don't remember the guy's first name, but he was at one of his employees' funerals. This guy had worked for him for like 20 years, and somebody was playing some music, and he asked about the music, and he said, well, my husband used to play the violin. And this employer said, how did I not know? For 20 years he played marvelously. And there's a lot of gifts inside of us that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
And it's time to come out of the closet and contribute to our community to help them heal.
Yes, fantastic. Where can people go to connect with you and get your help?
Well, I like to promote my Queen of Courage. I'm Sharon _Queen of Courage on Instagram. So I have 130 short videos, just 2, 3, 4 minute longs, out on Instagram. On Facebook, I'm Sharon Rolph. Sharon Rolph, period. But I have a couple other pages, like one for Effortless Vitality and a retirement well-being. And I do have a website, SharonRolph.com. And I have a book, Fresh Courage in Retirement, Finding Purpose, Essence, and Fulfillment and Fulfillment. So the it's time to actually have some of that heaven on earth
Yes.
when you're living from your heart.
I love it. You've been a delight to talk with. Again, I do hope you'll come back. Enjoy every day that you are working towards enlightening others. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Trina. I was honored to be here.
Thank you so much. And be sure you're following along. Link over to watch the Run Radio podcast on whichever platform you prefer. Link over from runradio.net.